Hello and welcome. On behalf of the National Career Development Association, welcome to the NCDA webinar series. This session is titled, How Will AI Impact the Workplace? What Career Practitioners Need to Know. I'm Melissa Venable, NCDA Director of Professional Development, and I have just a few tips before we get started today. During the webinar, you can keep your microphone muted, but if you've got questions, you can add those to the chat and we will work with those as we go. The webinar is being recorded and the recording link will be posted on the NCDA website and on the YouTube channel, and I will also email the link to everyone who registered. This program session is approved for 1 hour of continuing education credit. So for NCDA members, that will be automatically added to your record after the session. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Marilyn Mays. Marilyn is the financial administrator of the Asia Pacific Career Development Association. Her ongoing research focuses on labor market and career counseling issues. Dr. Mays is an NCDA Fellow and Eminent Career Award recipient, and she is also a member of NCDA's AI Task Force. So Dr. Mays, thank you for being here, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to introduce my distraction today so that you all know what's going on here. This is Oliver. he's very cute, but he's also distracting. So I'm so happy to talk with you about this subject. I wanted to see if all of these various things that I've been involved in all these many years. I started out in career counseling working on software for career planning. My goal was to create a better inventory that would actually produce results for people that would be appropriate, be much better than the ones that we had at the time. And recently I realized that that goal now is obsolete because I can use AI and I can get results that are better than most of the inventories that I've used over my lifespan, which is, of course, many. So that was my motivation for throwing my weight, my knowledge, my background into this. And I have been involved in computers for my entire career planning lifetime, which extended over half a century so far. So what I'm going to talk to you about, first of all, is how this worked for me. And I'm calling this how prompts impact results. Then I'm going to talk to you about the importance of figuring out what's useful and what's not useful, because I think that whenever we use AI, that we have to be very, very careful to use our own personal judgment. I think that's a very important part of using AI. Then I'm going to flip to my background, which is occupations and occupational analysis. And I'm going to base part of my work on ONET, which I think is one of the strongest databases in the world for looking at occupations. I'll talk about which types of occupations will be impacted. Then things that popped out as I began working with AI in terms of this question was I found that many of the uses would be done by the employer, and in other cases it would be the employee. And that's very different, because if it's the employee, then they're responsible for learning it and becoming expert at it. While if it's the employer, they don't have a lot of choice. They just have to take the job or not. I'm going to do some of this work using ONET descriptors and try to explain to you how I think that they relate and help us learn about different kinds of occupations and what those occupations are. Names of occupations, getting down to the nitty gritty of how we actually see the world and how it relates to us personally. And then use some of the data on which occupations are out there and how many people work in them. Just to give you a little background, I personally use the software called u.com, and this is available free on the Bing browser. And I was trying to figure out why it's different. And it told me that the reason it's different is because u.com is a search engine. It didn't start out being AI. It started being a search engine like Google or any of those others, but then it integrated AI into it. So it's always looking at what's going on out there. I know that with ChatGPT, we talk about how it started with the data up to 2021, and then it was updated at some point. so that now it has more recent data. U.com, on the other hand, is always looking out there and getting all new data, but it's then organizing that data using AI. So um, it's slightly different, although it's very similar in terms of impact. Um, and I'm not recommending it. I'm not saying other people should use it. I'm just saying that's why this might be a little different than what you've seen before. Okay, so my first question was um, to identify, I asked AI to identify the 50 common work tasks for which AI can be the most helpful. I'm sorry, the word most came in as helpful. So 50 is a big number. Obviously, what I was looking for is just give me it all. I want to know what's going on out there. And I was just amazed. What I found was a list that looked like it had everything on it. Like, what's missing? Everything's here. So that was telling me that AI thought everything was useful. And of course, when I looked at that, I thought, no, wait a minute. Is this just because I'm asking AI what's useful and it thinks it's wonderful? Um, but no, AI doesn't have a big ego. I don't think it has any ego. What it was doing is because I was using a search strategy that's actually looking at what's out there right now. It was finding these ideas that inventors have come up with, like, oh, you could use AI for this, you could use it for this, you could use it for that. And so that's why it seemed like it was everything under the sun when I looked at the list. So keeping that in mind, that this is just a broad list that just seems to cover almost everything, but it's based on inventors' ideas of where they think AI can be useful. Let me just give you some summary concepts. So it talked a lot about different kinds of data entry and data processing. And of course, we know there's so much data out there, and it's great to have AI doing the processing. It does reduce human error and it increases speed. I've got an example of this. Um, my husband is an astronomer, and I just read about a new observatory in Chile, which is designed to observe the entire sky in 3 days. And when it's done, it starts again. So what it's doing is producing massive amounts of data. And what the scientists are doing is asking what changed in 3 days. And luckily, AI is doing that for them. It's analyzing those images and telling them that there's something going on in this particular location, and the other locations are still the same as they used to be. So this massive amount of data is being just churned out by this machine, and it's just going to do it over and over and over and over again. But what that's going to do for scientists is the AI is going to point out things that are important and useful so they can focus on those things and see what's going on in those interesting locations. So, there's just so much data out there. It's wonderful that AI is able to do that for us because humans couldn't do it. It's just way too much. Of course, it's being used for customer support. And I'm sure that many of you are as frustrated as I've been recently with some of the bad customer support out there that doesn't really use AI yet. Um, I, for one, am really excited about AI um, being used in the chatbots because I would much rather be able to ask my question my way and have that chatbot give me an answer that's reasonable than to say, I don't know. Ugh, I would like it to be able to understand what I'm asking. So I am very grateful that they are doing this. And I think it's going to really help us as consumers to get the answers we need. It's used for email management. And I haven't experienced this. The idea of sorting your email into categories and drafting responses this is not how I work, but that certainly I could imagine would be very time saving. Meeting scheduling. I think we've all used various devices to help us schedule meetings. So finding a better way to do that is always helpful. Document review. I mean, this is primarily how I see it. And I know I'm limited in my thinking, but reviewing all of the new work that's out there and finding out about all of the articles that are being written and then pulling out the ones that are useful to the topic I'm working on right now and helping and synthesizing those for me so I don't have to read 20 different articles. I can read one summary and get at least updated a little bit on what's going on. Yes, if I really cared, I'd read all 20, but sometimes I just don't have time for that. So this is just a wide variety and just to give you a feeling for all the different ways that it's impacting our lives and our work and changing the work that we do. Now, I'm actually going to give you the prompts that I used for some because I think it's important if you're going to write your own prompts that you see how the wording makes a difference. I next asked it to sort that list of 50 work tasks into the categories that are used in ONET that are called work activities. And there's 4 major categories: information input, mental processes, work output, and interaction with others. And I'm sure you know that you can tell AI that you want it to use a specific document, the document ONET provides on describing what work activities are. I wanted it to read the descriptions for each of these 4 categories and use those descriptions to find the work tasks that would be classified under them. And these are just examples. There were 50 items, and out of those 50, it did classify all of them into these 4 categories. So I'm going to just talk about examples here because I don't want to talk about all 50. Information input. Okay, and this pulled out something interesting: website optimization. I've developed websites and I certainly want to optimize them so people will like them and be able to read them, scan them quickly. But I never thought of that as information input, but AI did. But that skill, that task under information input, and certainly my website if I could. I think that's really important. Health monitoring and diagnostics. If you've ever been in an emergency ward and seen people who are either on life support or near death, the monitoring that's going on is just incredible. There's so many different monitors and so many different machines telling you information all the time. I think it's very important that AI is part of the loop to take the important information and call it to your attention because it's hard to keep paying attention hour after hour. And when people are in a situation where they need immediate help if something goes wrong, I think it's really important. So this is a great use of AI and certainly helping people a whole lot. Mental processes. I think counselors are doing a lot of mental processing. So this is a very important area for us. Idea generation and brainstorming, excuse me. That's great. Yes, and I use it that way, and I'll bet you do too. If you want ideas, you can ask AI for ideas, and it will give you a whole long list of things that may or may not be relevant. But that's what brainstorming is all about. It's to get you started, get you thinking in new ways, get new ideas in front of you. And the idea that instead of having to call 10 of your most knowledgeable friends together and have a meeting, you can just ask AI and you get the same input. That's pretty amazing. I think that's going to help all of us. Personalized product recommendations. That's interesting. I can put in the things I'm looking for in a product. It'll tell me which products I should be interested in and pay attention to. That's wonderful. What a great use. Work output. Social media management. Social media, my gosh, there's so much going on. I mean, I can't imagine managing it, but certainly if anything can manage social media, it would be AI. So I'm grateful that somehow things can be distilled so I don't have to go and read all of those posts out there. And I can get the essence of it on my news broadcasts. Graphic design assistants. We were talking before this webinar started about one of the people who's in this audience using a song and asking AI to generate the song for her. That's audio, of course, but it's also graphic. And a lot of creative people are now using AI in many, many ways to generate images and to create really powerful, impactful images of concepts that they have in their head. If they can describe it, AI can create the image. and it's really pretty exciting. Interacting with others, that's of course a big thing for career counselors. So it suggests that recruitment and candidate screening be done by AI. And of course, we know that that's what's happening in the job market, that there's a whole lot of AI being used for screening the candidates. So that's part of what we need to know how to do, is to help candidates look good when they're being screened by AI. And another one it gave me was language translation. Of course, I use it for translating languages all the time. But yes, that does help me interact with others, others that don't speak the language I do. So I am very grateful for that. So of all those 50 things it can do, which are all very different from each other, trying to categorize them into these 4 categories was helpful, but still a huge amount of variety. So my next thing, I had noticed that I was getting all these ideas that I wasn't familiar with from my first question. I wanted to get people who think like me involved. So I asked the next set of questions, I asked it to focus on labor market analysts. And I gave it examples of what I meant by that, so that it would be looking at the literature in the labor market analysis field and give me suggestions that were more familiar to me and more comfortable to me. That may be seeking my comfort zone, but it was also very helpful for me to understand what was happening. So here's some examples it gave me this way. Talked about administrative support tasks, and explains that 46% of the tasks in office administration are likely to be automated. Whoa, that's a lot. But I'm not surprised really, because we know that automation has changed the way offices work. And of course, AI is going to change the way offices work. So it's going to be very important in any kind of a office. Software coding and drafting. Software experts now are not writing their own code. They're asking AI to write it for them. And then they test it and make sure it does what they want and tweak it. But they don't write it from scratch anymore. And I personally was one of those people who wrote it from scratch when I started. So I know how much time this is going to save. And we were just talking about image and video and how much it's been helping creative people to um, create great images. And I was talking about the astronomers who are using AI to analyze images and find out what's in an image that's unique and valuable. The next question I asked it, because I was beginning to see a difference here between things which an employer would do, and an employer would pay a software designer to do for them, versus things that employees would do for themselves. I think that's really important, because those of us who are career counselors, I don't think are going to go hire, most of us aren't going to go hire a computer programmer to do something just for us. But the larger employers certainly are. And what are they going to hire the data software designers to do? They're going to do a lot of data entry, because there are so many ways you can make mistakes with data entry. If AI can help you reduce the mistakes and make sure that the data that you're putting in is more accurate, that is going to save so much time. And I know that personally, because whenever I type anything, there's always typos. And luckily, it's correcting the words for me. And so I don't send those typos out too often. Performance monitoring. I was talking before about hospitals, where of course we're monitoring the performance of the patient, but certainly we can monitor the performance of our employees too, and find out if there's anything going on that we need to step in. If somebody's not, they're falling asleep on the job and things are not going well, we need to step in and help in that situation. So monitoring the performance of employees, of course, they're going to be doing that. Content moderation. In any organization, you want to make sure that your content is appropriate and is not going to hurt your reputation. So of course, that's going to be automated to make sure that everything that's being output with your company name on it is checked and verified, to make sure that it doesn't say things that are off the wall and inaccurate. So, and it can handle vast amounts of data, so it can do that quickly. So this is the kind of things that, and this is just a smattering. This is just a few ideas that are completely different from each other to get you to think about it. But remember, we started with a list of 50. And so what we're talking about here is just a few to think about things employers are going to do for employees. Okay, now which ones are the employees going to be responsible for? So this is really important because we're working, especially if you're working with young people, you want to make sure that they have those skills and they know how to use AI in their work so that they can be the productive ones. I think in the future, the people who don't use AI in their work in many jobs are going to be the unproductive ones and are going to be pushed out. I think we need to help employees be competitive by using AI well. So we see that the employers could provide the tools, but for something like legal document review, certainly if you're reviewing legal documents, you want AI to help you. And there are tools, they're out there, professionals can use them. And I'm guessing most legal document reviewers know that and are using them. Another one is kind of similar, document reading and writing. And certainly, I think all of us are using tools now to help us with our typos and to maybe even do some writing for us. I know that when I want to write a description of something and I have a lot of ideas I want to condense down into a short, distinct description, I ask AI to do that. And usually what it gives me is very succinct if I ask for that, and very easy to understand and well written. So I can then go forward and if I'm writing a flyer, developing a flyer for an event or something, I can use that. It really speeds up the work for me. Predictive maintenance. When are you going to need to repair your tools and your manufacturing? Now, I'm not a manufacturing person, so I never would have thought of that, but this makes a lot of sense, trying to make sure that you use any downtime you may have to fix things that might break soon or might need, things that might need to be sharpened or tightened or whatever before it happens, before things start to break. And that's a great idea. So these are all just examples of things that where an employee who knows how to use AI would be contributing to the employer and therefore more valuable. And Melissa, feel free to jump in if you see anything in the chat. Okay. Okay, so another query, which was important to me, and again, now I'm going back to the 20 work tasks, which I had asked to get from labor market analysts. So this is not just from everything out there, but these are the work tasks that labor market analysts think are going to be automated by the employer. Then what kind of tasks? And I asked for a long list, and you can see in this list that this is fairly long. And these are different kinds of things which employees, no, I'm sorry, automated by the employer. Yeah, and the employees will then have, which are likely to be automated employer, for which the work tasks will employees be more likely to be responsible for finding out tools. Okay, so these, I'm sorry, this is a two-part question and this is part one. Okay, first one's which is employers automated, and the second one is which one will the employee be automated. And it's interesting to look at the differences here. Obviously, we've seen some of these before, data entry, administrative support, and so on. These are things where a large company can cause its processes to be more efficient and faster and more accurate using the right tools. And these are things where the employee is needing to bring the skill to the employer to already know how to use AI to do these things. And I think as career practitioners, we're very interested in the ones on the right because many of our clients are professional people and they are going to be looking for jobs where they have unique skills. And some of those unique skills nowadays are going to have to be using AI well so that you can be more effective. Okay. So at this point now, I'm going to leave my general analysis, my general searching, and go and look at ONET specifically, because what I want to know is which of the ONET categories are most useful in understanding labor market data using AI. And one of the categories in ONET is skills. It's one that career counselors, I think, are very much drawn to. So I asked, using the ONET skills, which ones will be automated effectively by AI? And it's interesting that of the 10 basic skills, every single one of them was going to be automated by AI. Now, I picked out an example that confused me because I thought, how can active learning be automated by AI? The person has to learn, not the computer, but it gave me a good example. This is a product called Newton's AI-powered adaptive learning program, and it's able to improve test scores. So by adapting to the person to the learner's skills or lack of skills and drilling the learner in the right areas, it can improve the test scores when the learner goes and takes the test by 62%. Whoa, that's great. So it's active learning in the sense of helping the learner to focus on the right issues and really understand what they need to fix, what they don't know, and how to fix it. And I asked about the 25 cross-functional skills. Now, of course, the cross-functional skills are much more specific. So these are things that we are much more likely to be talking to our clients about. Critical thinking, for example, is a skill I think we may have used those words in our work. And here's an example. So this is a tool by IBM, which analyzes large data sets to provide evidence-based recommendations to help employees make informed decisions. This is great. And I hope that everybody is using AI if they can, because certainly getting input from this large data set would be better than just using your own knowledge, however that extensive that may be, and trying to make decisions based on that. Okay, so these are examples of how it's going to be used. But like I said before, it thought that every one of those 10 basic skills and 25 cross-functional skills, every one of those was going to be automated by AI. And I thought, wait a minute, this isn't helping me. I'm trying to narrow things down a little bit. So then I went to look at work activities. Now, work activities are very close to work tasks. Think about it, activities, tasks. I think it's just a different way of saying the same thing. And there's 41 of them in ONET. And by asking it to use activities, then I'm getting down to something that's much more concrete. Skills may seem concrete, but they actually have a lot to do with the human being versus the work. The activities are things which you are doing and getting paid to do. So they're very concrete, and they're things that you'll find in job descriptions, work tasks you'll find in job descriptions. So very specific. And finally, I got what I was looking for. I got a nice short list. I like this list. I can do something with it. First, it says mental processes. Of course, every one of those could be helped by AI. Analyzing data or information, yes. Processing information, yes. Developing objectives and strategies, yes, AI can help me with that. Making decisions and solving problems, yes, it can help me with that. Organizing, planning, and prioritizing my work. Yeah, I was just talking about some of the tools used for organizing emails. These are things we know we can do with AI. And thinking creatively. This might not have been something I would have thought of, but I know that creative people are using AI constantly. And I gave you some examples about how it can help you with brainstorming. So that's thinking creatively. And even though AI may not be creative, it can give you creative ideas that you can use in your work. So these mental processes are all things that can be used with AI, but there's 41 of them, and this is 6, okay? And there's one other that I think is very useful, and that's updating and using relevant knowledge. I mean, for sure, if I wanted to update my knowledge, I would be using AI. I would go ask it the pertinent questions and try to get the most relevant answers that I could from it. Okay, so using that, now what I've done is I have translated this list of everything in the world, just completely overwhelming list of possibilities that AI can do for me, into something which is very specific and which I can do to search occupations. So now I'm switching over and I'm using data which is available to all of us from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that tells us how many people are working in each job in the US and what work activities those jobs need or those jobs use most. So I looked only at work activities which are used at the 70% or above level. So we're not talking about work activities being used a little in the job. We're talking about them being very important in the job and used in a very important way or very significant way. And using those 7 categories that I just showed you, I was able to identify 383 occupations, and there's a total of 831, so that's 46%, and that includes 55 million workers, that require a high level of at least one of those work activities. Okay, now these are work activities which employees are going to be responsible for using and thinking of their own AI tools. This is not something the employer is going to provide to them. It's something the employee is going to have to do for themselves. And these are occupations in which the employee is going to need to be the one to initiate the use of AI and to make good use of it in order to be the most productive worker and be the one that the employer hires and continues to employ. Guess where career counselors fall? We're right here in this medium category. 3 out of those 7 work activities are very important in career counseling. So that puts us in the middle category of occupations which are substantially going to be needing to use AI. And it's going to be very important for us to have those tools in order to be able to do our work well and efficiently. There's a lot of occupations that are at the lower levels. Let's see, I think I've got some examples. No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I don't have some examples here. Okay, so in my paper, I definitely have lots of examples of the lower level. The lower level tend to be managers who are not managers of a lot of things, but managers of something specific, like a hotel manager. A medium level is going to be more complex jobs in which there's many factors being considered, and they have to be used simultaneously. And the highest level, not a surprise, is going to be the scientists and the researchers, the people which are constantly trying to find new ideas, new data, and new ways to look at the world. And they are going to be the ones which have to use a high level of those activities and therefore are going to be needing to use AI constantly in their work. So that's not a total surprise. I think it's very important to remember that we're right here in the medium category and that we're going to need a lot of AI in our work in order to stay competitive. And the ones that are the lower level, the basic managers that run the world and make things happen for us, I'm sure that they're going to be happy to embrace AI if it gives them a few hours that they can let go of their job and go home to their families. So this is things that we need to know as career counselors, because we need, if we're working with some of these groups, especially any of these categories, if you're working with people in those categories, helping them to get trained, get reskilled into so that they can go into new occupations. Let's say they've been laid off from an employer, or for some reason their job has become obsolete, then you're going to need to be able to help them gain these new skills, which are going to involve the use of AI. Okay, so what have we seen here? We've seen that there are many uses of AI in the workplace, that some of those uses are going to be mostly implemented by employers. The employers are going to hire somebody to create a great program for the employees that's going to make the employees more productive. But others are going to be the responsibility of the employees. So what do we need to do? We need to help laid off employees to make the transition and to use AI to make themselves more powerful and more efficient in the work that they want to do for the employer so that they can get the job. We're going to help youth. And I'm guessing youth don't have to be helped too much, but encourage youth to embrace these new technologies and get familiar with them so that they are using these and they are preparing themselves for this workplace, which is going to be quite different than the workplace of the past. And we're going to have to work with our professional clients to help them embrace the new technologies. If any of you are working with people who are a little bit older, of course, you know, people tend to be resistant to change. So these helping clients to adapt to the new technology is going to be absolutely essential. And since helping them adapt is essential, I think it's important for us to learn how to adapt too. So I think it's going to have a very dramatic impact on the labor market of the future.
Marilyn, we've got a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Julie says, I realize you don't work for the BLS, but she's super curious about when ONET will start incorporating AI skills and tools into job descriptions. And do you have any insight about that?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. No, I don't have any insight into that. Um, but I can ask that question. Sure. That sounds very interesting. Thank you, Julie.
And Marilyn, you mentioned your paper, so I've added a link to the chat to your
Yeah.
paper about this project that's
Thank
on
you.
the NCDA website.
You're right. This is on the NCDA website. This link, I think, may be a little old. So I'm going to stop that one. What else? Anybody want to just jump in here and talk about what you see as important in your work with working with careers?
Well, I'll follow up a little bit on the question I asked, if you don't mind. Like it seems to me that what you've done and just provided us with is part of what I'd love to see incorporated into ONET. Because not to whine, I'm trying to embrace new technology like everybody else. But with, again, at the top of the chat, we talked about this. Like when you see clients in lots of different fields and the way that they need to each adapt to AI is so different based on it's just funny that an ONET description will boil down like how much time you're on the phone and how much time you're outside, but it doesn't yet say anything about AI tools. That would be such a fantastic build out. So I don't know if that's a
And
question or just a comment, but I'm
and we have a president who just decided to fire most of the people who work for the Department of Labor.
fantastic. Great
So
timing.
I get great
Um,
timing. So
but you're
that's
you're
why I
filling
can't
that.
answer that question because I'm thinking there's nobody left to do the work, that the people left are going to be just overwhelmed trying to do what they've always done.
Well, I'm grateful for this work because in some ways now you're sort of filling that hole for us. You're kind of helping me understand how to scatter plot kind of where different fields and occupations fall. And it kind of reduces the burden for us to be complete experts in all of that, to simply understand like primary tools, how to get better at them and light, some direction.
Mhm.
You've just given me a way to kind of translate where ONET leaves off and where self-education begins and think about a way to sort all of this. So thank you for the model. It's really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, if to me, one of the things I found was the 7 work activities. That's gold because you can use that to search occupations and see what which occupations use those work activities, and then it gives you examples of how they use it. So if you're working with a client in that occupation, it will tell you how is the client going to need that work activity, and then you can answer the question, or you can ask AI, I mean, to answer the question, how can I find a tool, or what should this client be aware of in terms of tools for solving that problem. So it's all in there, combining AI and ONET. It's we have to do the work because there's nobody left to do it for us in that department anymore, I'm afraid.
M. Hemming has added in the chat a note about national career clusters,
Yeah.
and that they've been revamped into 12 clusters with 4 cross-cutting clusters, and that's also a factor in this conversation.
Do you want to go ahead and elaborate on that? Go ahead, please.
Sure. I happen, you say clients, but our clients also can be students of a variety of ages as well, right? If we're talking developmentally, but it's interesting because ONET is driven using a lot of those, Holland's codes and also, again, those traditional 16 career clusters that have been around for many years. So that's now been revamped. And it's actually a wonderful system. And it would be great to see, as Julie had mentioned, how AI can both enhance and how it will change some of those. ACTE has a great explanation of it where they basically broke down I don't know if you know this, but they just basically broke down all the career clusters into things. I'm gonna look at my map right here, looking at it, where so you're either someone who's creating and experiencing, investing in the future, caring for a community, cultivating resources, or building and moving. Everything boils down to that. And it's kind of cool because it kind of helps really focus on the value of like, what's your purpose? Like what drives you in that space, right? And then maybe where do you fit in that space? And then it breaks out. So for instance, like building and moving has supply chain and transportation,
Yeah.
obviously advanced manufacturing and construction. Creating and experiencing might be hospitality, events, and tourism, but also arts, entertainment, and design. They've revamped the wording of some of them as well, and then the cross-cutting meaning, which we've known for a long time, don't exist in its separate career cluster, are things like marketing and sales. That's across every career, right? So it's kind of doing what we've known for a long time, but it's putting in a much bigger context, and everything is circular, which I really like, gets us away from that kind of boxed thinking. Well, it's been there, but anyway, so I just thought it was interesting to note that that's going on, and that's also in close alignment with how Perkins gets, how we get to spend money, whether you're a secondary school or even post-secondary school or WIOA, et cetera. So anyway, interesting stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really glad you brought that up. I had not been looking at the career clusters and I didn't realize that they'd been revamped. So great. Yeah.
I'll find the link and I'll stick it in the chat.
Please, that'd be wonderful. Yeah. Oh, and I think Melissa did find a link, right, Melissa?
I found a link, but it might not be the right one. So take a look, Ms. Hemming, and if we need a correction, please.
Yeah, it looks like she found it. So it's there. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Anybody
Millie.
else?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's M. Hemming.
Oh, no, no worries.
What, some other people, throw some ideas in here, please. How many of you work with young people or even mature people who are going to need to reskill? Okay, what are you going to do to get them to reskill? This is my concern. I think as career professionals, we need to be recommending to people how to be the best, be the top in their field. And how do we do that if we don't have goals? Julie, do you have any ideas on what you might say? Oh, sorry, Lisa. Go ahead. You
Hi.
unmuted, right?
Yeah, so I work with eighth graders and I do eighth grade career exploration workshops. And we have a youth science assessment that's all AI generated. So that's been amazing. I also have a new activity we're going to do where they have 2 columns and they list skills that they have, things that they like to do or that interest them. And then I'm going to put it into ChatGPT or Google and find jobs based on what they wrote to show them how they can use ChatGPT, Google, just to learn everything they possibly can about possible careers. Just so it's more relevant for them, because they're using ChatGPT and they're Googling everything. They have that at their fingertips. So I'm showing them positive ways to do that. So.
Yes, and nobody's going to come back and say, we shouldn't be using, ChatGPT or something for that. This is something you should be using it for, yes.
Yes. And then I do have one-on-one exploration meetings with college students, high school students, alumni, because I'm really focused on the exploration side of it. So when we're doing that use science assessment, we use that. We have a My Majors assessment. ChatGPT we use when we're looking at resumes and cover letters. If they have that blank screen syndrome and they can't figure out the right language or what to use, we'll go to that, but it needs to be 100% accurate. So we always talk about that. Um, but yeah, we're really like ChatGPT is kind of in our everyday life over here now. It's
Great.
so useful and less brain power is needed on my end. So I'm happy about that. So yeah.
I'll add to
Lucy?
that. I trained in a college setting and I now work with adults. And one way that I'm kind of working around some of this right now, and I'm open to any feedback, but I still see, and I was trained LPC model, right? So I see myself as a generalist, and my clients are the experts in their space. They're the specialists. But if I can kind of shine a light on the role AI might play and things they should be thinking about, what I often encourage them to do, no matter how many years out of school they are, is go back to their alma maters or find the local chapter of their professional association or whatever it is. You can count on the fact that everybody in their field is asking all the same questions. We're all in the same race. And if I encourage finding those resources and seeing, like, I'm working with a designer right now who went to SCAD 10 years ago. Guess what? SCAD is now offering its alumni all kinds of training in AI and trying to backfill their curriculum. So that's something she can take advantage of. And it makes no sense for me to be the expert, but to get her in touch with the people specific to her field that can help her advance her skills and choose the right tools. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is help them ask the big questions, but segment into the spaces where they can really get, specific levels of help to their field, if that makes sense.
Great. That's so practical. Thank you so much, Julie. Bob, you had a comment.
Yeah, and I'm echoing a little bit with what Julia's just shared. Um, we've all been taught that career counseling is a collaborative process, and certainly that has been demonstrated, for centuries in different ways that it is collaborative. But I think, at least for me, getting involved with AI and working with clients on AI. It comes down in many cases to collaborating with them on sometimes simple things, but not so simple actually, but things revolving around prompts and teaching and training and helping clients to learn how to become as self-reliant with AI as possible, how to frame for themselves best questions, either questions that maybe seem very pertinent to their immediate situation, but in other cases, questions that speak perhaps more to long-range career planning issues. And I'm working with an exec right now who was recently laid off. And I realized pretty quickly in that process that some of the assumptions I was making, because he said he had been working with AI quite a bit, and so I assumed too much, and shortly into the process realized that whatever he was doing with AI, he wasn't as artful as he needed to be about framing the kind of questions that he needed to be posing. And so it's AI has that potential, of course, to be pretty far-reaching, but sometimes we need to remind ourselves that in some cases it comes back to basics, such as prompts and good formulation of prompts.
I think that's a very important point. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because even helping to even learning yourself how to rephrase a prompt so that it gets the answers that you intended to get, I think is a really important skill. And it's something that all of us can work on and then help our clients work on. Yes. And you'd think they would know that and they'd probably be ahead of us, but not always.
Mm.
Great. Thank you.
Lucy had a comment back in the chat I wanted to make sure we get to as well. How do we help students or clients balance the need for independent skill development with the use of AI? She leads study abroad groups and has noticed that some of her students are at a loss when they can't use the GPS on their phone because they don't know how to read a map.
Yeah, I think those are maybe different questions, though.
Indeed.
Using a map, I certainly appreciate that skill personally, but that's a little different than the question of how to get more independent and using their own. Um, I think we need to do what Julie recommended and get them in touch with their own profession. You know, I have been so surprised at how people are using AI, and what you're seeing there, of course, is the most creative people in that field saying, "Oh, look, you could use it for this," and once they start doing that, then they share that with other people, and other people get excited, and so pretty soon everybody's doing it. Um, and we can't be that creative as to know all that stuff. It's really good to just get them back to their own profession where the people have that, detailed specialty, I think. Lucy, did you want to continue on that thought a little bit?
Just trying to unmute. Well, I was just wondering because some of our students, for example, don't actually have a profession yet. So they are in the process of developing skills. And I actually work with students with disabilities too at the college level. And so a lot of them really benefit from AI, but we also don't want to further disable them so that they are not able to function independently to some degree. It's just hard to know where that balance is when you're working with different populations who could really benefit from AI, but also need to learn some independent skill development before they can use AI even effectively. I mean, it's that sort of balance, right? You need to be able to develop your skills independently well enough to be able to do the types of things that Bob was just talking about, develop an effective prompt for. And sometimes students just want to jump right to the use of AI, not realizing that it might actually be debilitating ultimately if they just skip the steps that they need to take to develop skills, right? I mean, we're all sort of,
I think
digital.
That's a different. That's
Yeah.
a different thing. Yes, we all want to get there fast. Yes, let's do it the fastest possible way. You're right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not the fastest that actually teaches you the most. Sometimes you really need to develop those skills the hard way.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's any, I mean, it's so new. I'm not sure if there's any, there's anybody looking at that. I mean.
No, I predict that in the future, everybody is going to be so good at using AI that they're going to not only.
Yeah, until your phone stops working, you have to figure out how to use a map.
Right? Yeah, then you go talk to an old timer, right? Somebody who had to learn the hard way. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I don't know, I mean, we don't really know what the effects of being a digital native entirely are if you're a digital native in the era of AI, right? I mean, I don't know.
No, we don't know yet.
No.
No, and it could be really devastating, I can guess. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm guessing that the AI is going to do so much more for us in the future that we are all going to be like people can't live without their phone, right? We're going to can't live without AI in the future. I think that's going to happen. I don't know how to fix that or change it, stop it. I do think it will happen. Anybody else want to talk about this? I personally would recommend that you look at those lists of occupations I came up with, not because they're wonderful lists, but because I think it's really interesting. I mean, if you start working like in a certain schools or departments, I think you're going to it's going to be useful to know which ones are in there and to think about the actual skills that they might need, what AI can help them do. I guess if you're just in general practice and you're working with people who just, a different every day, a different mix every day, then it's not so useful. But I just think it might give you some ideas. Kathleen, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, for the career development, I'm private practice. I used to work at another college. My current role, I work in a community college, and my role as an instructor is classroom success. And I've decided I needed to learn more about AI so that I can start doing workshops on AI and learning. one thing, I agree with everything that's being said here. I've also done a lot of work with, you know, career changers, midlife, and all that. And I agree with the idea of turning to your associations for, you know, what are the latest trends. And it just, what I'm struck with is how overwhelming this can be for the student who's trying to plan 10 years out from now. Who knows what the world is going to look like 10 years from now? And that's where I think the focus should be on who are you? How are you talented? What do you bring to the table? And realize that learning of the new skills, that's just lifelong learning. You need to be prepared for constant learning. And it just, again, it's just overwhelming just to even think about all this stuff. So, again, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said here. How do we support them, but get them to focus on who they are and what they have, you know, what they bring to the table, rather than what's the latest hot job, because that's going to change. You know, by the time they graduate, that job is likely not going to be around.
You're right. We've still got the same job. Help them figure out who they are. Yep, that's it. Exactly. Yep.
That's where it all starts. You know,
that's where it all starts. Yep.
When I do the career exploration, that's one thing, you know, we do all the assessments. The thing I encourage them to focus on is what are the patterns and themes that keep coming up. Yeah. I'm a creative, I'm an empath, whatever it is, you know, focus on, and that can give you a sense of the direction to go.
Yep. Well, that's probably a good place to end this talk, right? Thank you all for coming. It's been lovely being with you today. And please contact me if you have any questions in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marilyn. We're thrilled to have this captured. The recording will go out later today to everyone who registered, and we'll put this on NCDA's YouTube channel. There's some links in the chat. Hopefully those will be helpful for you. If you're watching this recording, email me and I will get you those links. So thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.